On this episode 120 of the podcast, I'm going to talk about reviews, estranged spouses, and some possible disruption to the podcast into the future. Let's get into it. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Luke Who's. Is it Luke Who's? Like, it's Luke Who's, or should it be Luke Whom Talking podcast? I don't know. Anyway, how you doing out there? Going all right? Yeah? Good. So let's get into the first little thing. Now, yesterday when I was making up my notes, I was like, what would be 3 topics going to be? And I thought of one that I could have talked about, but I'd already written the stuff up, so you'll have to wait until next time about that. I don't know. I've been a bit slack with my note-taking in recent times, I will be honest. Anyway, everybody, I was going for a bicycle. Went for a bicycle on Monday. And one of my cycling cohorts, my cycling cohort, I was going to say colleague, but are they cycling colleague? Yeah, we'll say they are. They said they were doing some craft work. Now, they do, I'm not sure what the specific term is. It's completely escaped me, but they do, they have wool. And they make like products out of it. So they were making they can make slippers and like ponchos and all that sort of stuff. It has a name. Completely forgotten what it's called. Anyway, they're doing some craft stuff. In their new craft shed's not the word, their craft cabin they have in their garden. It's a nice Baltic pine cabin they have in their garden, which is a recent addition to their garden. Anyway, it's very nice. Anyway, so I was saying they were doing a bit of craft work, and they were like, I thought I'd decide to catch up on some episodes of the podcast. Now, they said that one of their favourite in recent times was the one where I laid out some of the financial specifics, if I could use that, of the stadium fiasco. So that was back episode 117, governed by idiots. So they were like, yeah, that was a great podcast. They enjoyed that one because they have some thoughts about, the particular proposal, etc. So, they were like, you didn't say like what I would have, but you shared, you floated it. So they enjoyed that. Now, I should have pressed them a little bit further, but they did say one episode was pretty average, and I don't know what one. I wonder if I'm going back, and I was like, are you sure you only found one episode being awful? Because going back through the my notes here, like the last one wasn't great. I did have the is that the guy? Oh no. I was the delivery guy not being great, not having a great time last time, and then before that I had seeing the dude with the eye patch, right, and being sick, not great. I mean, I'd say probably all the episodes are solidly average, but they were like, this one episode wasn't. It was like a bit waffly, and I was like, okay. I should have asked them what one it was specifically, but anyway, the thing is, I got feedback. In person, which was good. I think it was great. I'm like, okay, cool. So, if you have any feedback, find me in the street. If you don't live locally to me, well, come and visit. It'd be like, so, Babs, listening to the podcast and got a few problems with it, or like you'd be like, it's awful, or whatever, right? So, yeah. So this is a shocking podcast. Anyway, I got to go to a song. We're back after this. Also, everybody, I usually yawn during the show, and I made that comment. We had a brief conversation when I was having my feedback session, and they're like, what you should do is maybe go for a brisk walk or something before I record and I'm like, there's a thought now. I will admit I haven't been for a brisk walk today. However, I do have a cup of Nescafe Gold, so I might not yawn. I don't know. I have been doing some things. I'm talking about yawning, and now I feel like I want to. Anyway, so I was talking to a friend of mine the other day. This is back into segment 2. I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, and I was like, "Oh, what is there something I could tell you, like a secret or something?" And you wouldn't be shocked by it. You'd be like, okay, you know, that's pretty on brand. Or if somebody tells you something and you're not shocked about it, I was just sort of talking about that. And they were like, oh, well, you know, maybe you should think about what you could tell me that would surprise me, sort of thing. So I said, okay. So I revealed something huge. And they didn't believe me. So I'll lay it out for you. So in September 2019, I had a secret wedding. And my wife, whom is a chemical engineer, does things, works for a company that they do like chemical spills and that sort of stuff. I have to go to like areas that maybe have been compromised by, say, nuclear incidents or whatever, and like stabilize the area, etc. Anyway, now what happened was in late 19, they had an opportunity to go to Zurich and work there for their particular company, which was great. So they went and, various things happened, of course, in the preceding years, so they couldn't come back, or I couldn't, go to visit them. And then a particular country decided they were going to visit another country, right, over there close to Europe. So as a result, my wife's team was on like standby, have been put on like an alert status, and actually now currently in Kiev, just in case, something goes down, because for Ukraine, right, they have nuclear reactors, etc. there. So they're ready in case there's some sort of issue with the nuclear power, a nuclear reactor or whatever. They can go, hopefully, and sort of, what's the word I'm after? Keep any issues to a minimum in that area. Now, this friend of mine, I'm going to call him Sam. He was like, "Oh, I don't think this person exists. I don't think that has happened at all." And I'll say that, like, I guess we're sort of now estranged, right? My wife and I. But my friend was like, "Oh no, this what are you talking about? Doesn't exist at all. I don't think this person exists." And their reasoning for that was that I hadn't told them. They're like, "Oh, you haven't told me earlier, so it's a fake story, right?" And I thought, oh, okay. Now, personally, I thought that's a pretty high opinion of themselves, I think, that they're like, oh, Lee could tell me about that. And also another friend of mine said, well, their theory was, well, it's probably a fake story because I haven't talked about it on the podcast. Here I am, I'm talking about it on the podcast. I'm telling you the story. And, putting it out there. What do you reckon? It's obviously legit, right? I haven't made it up or anything. So, but that is very interesting, though. Have you ever told somebody a story and they've just been like, well, you haven't told me about this before or earlier. It's a completely fake story. Has that ever happened? Let me know if it has. Anyway. Let's wrap it up. So, everybody, I think I mentioned this briefly at the end of the last show. I can't quite recall. But anyway, so over the next month, or next few months, so actually, now let me just get my calendar up. So that doesn't matter. So there'll be one. Okay. So next episode should be as should pretty much be unaffected. However, from sort of the second or so week of August through to late October, there's about 10 weeks, I think, I'm going to be house sitting for some friends. Now, at the moment, I will say that there is a good chance that the podcast will quite possibly be non-existent in that time frame. Now, I am hoping to take my computer, my desktop, with me during that time, but I'm not sure if I will take the whole recording gear, so the boom, all my equipment with me. So there is a good chance that there will be no podcast for that time. That'd be about 10 weeks. So what's that? 5? Wow, that's a lot of shows. About 5 shows or so. And I will have to double check, but I also think, because they're doing this particular friends are doing quite a bit of traveling, so I think also coming into next year, later in the year as well, so through to December and a little bit early in January, if I recall. I'd have to double check my notes. There will be a bit more house sitting. So just sort of, I guess, from the next show, which should be unaffected, but from there through to, I'll say, December, right? At least until the end of October, there will be some disruption to the podcast. So yeah, I'm not 100% sure what that at this point, I guess, will look like, but I would have to say, I suppose at this point, pretty much probably no shows, if I'm honest. So I'll just tell you about that now. I'll see what goes on, but as I said, I'm planning on taking my computer, my desktop with me, but I am not particularly planning at this point to take my whole setup. So I'll just leave you with that, so you're aware of it, aware of if there is a disruption to the podcast, which, well, as I've said, I think there will be. That is the reason behind it. The dog's barking and I'm not happy about it. Anyway, I'm going to, we'll wrap it up, everybody. Thanks for listening to this episode of the podcast. Hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, good. If you haven't, that's not great, but let me know. Send me some feedback, right? Send me an email, lukeWho'sTalkingPod@gmail.com, on the Twitter as well, at @L_who's talking, or just send me a letter, 123 Fake Street. Put something in the letterbox, just write Luke Who's Talking, put it in the letterbox, see what happens. It might end up somewhere. You should probably put a return address on it as well, just in case it doesn't go anywhere, and then it can come back to you. Anyway, everybody, hope you enjoyed the show. A bit of an average one, and I will catch you next time, but possibly not after that, for a bit. Anyway, thanks everybody. Bye.